Have you ever gone to the lake and found that your fish finder screen looks like this? All of that clutter on the screen can be caused by floating debris, an excess amount of bait fish, or non-bass species. Figuring out how to sift through all the clutter on your screen to find productive areas that are holding bass can be the difference between catching 15 pounds of bass or nothing. Today I'll put this skill to the test on Grand Lake in Oklahoma. Can I find productive areas to catch 5 bass for 15 pounds despite all the clutter on my screen? Let's find out. Today I'm on Grand Lake in Oklahoma. It's the end of May and bass are transitioning into their summer patterns. This means you can likely find large groups of fish setting up on offshore structure. The main challenge I'm facing on this trip is that there's been a lot of rain around Grand Lake, which has brought a lot of debris into the water. This debris actually shows up on your down imaging, side imaging, and 2D sonar views on your fish finder and can completely clutter up your screen. It also attracts bait fish, which add more noise to your image, and it can be very difficult to decipher areas that are holding bass because there's so much clutter everywhere on all of your different sonar views. After years of trial and error fishing in this exact same situation, I found that it's best to actually ignore the majority of what you see on your screen and really just focus on finding hard structure or hard cover. Because I had a gut feeling that there would be some fish setting up offshore on this fishing trip, I started by graphing a long flat point that extended out into the lake. Again, I was looking for a piece of hard cover, hard structure. More specifically, I wanted a smaller piece of cover, maybe the size of my boat, that's isolated and more than 20 to 40 yards away from any other type of cover. Whenever I see a ton of debris and clutter and bait fish on my screen, I find that it spreads the fish out, and if there's too much cover in a particular area, it's hard to get your bait in front of those fish because they may be roaming around a lot around that cover. Instead, if you find a piece of cover or structure that's only the size of your front deck of your boat, or maybe the size of your boat, it'll concentrate those fish into a smaller area, and it's a lot easier to get your bait in front of those fish. After finding this nice rock pile that fit the bill, I decided to make a few casts. Got him. Stay on there, fish. On 6XD here. Little rocky spot. Nice one. Dang, I didn't think it was actually that good when I was reeling them in. Here we go, guys. First fish of the day. Not been fishing all that long either. Beauty on the 6XD. There we go, guys. 2 pounds, 12 ounces, a 2 3/4 pounder to start the day. That's what I'm freaking talking about. Cranking a little hard spot out here that we found. I was dragging a Carolina rig around, couldn't get him to bite, but for whatever reason, they wanted that crankbait. Let's get that guy back down there. Solid 2 3/4 pounder. Got that fish on the old Strike King 6XD. Who said you can't catch him on a deep diving crankbait? Man, just got that rocky spot down here. Didn't see like a ton of fish necessarily around the rocky spot, and that's mainly because there's just fish everywhere on the screen right now, from trash fish to bait to everything. So I just tried to find a nice looking hard spot, which I know bass use as an ambush point on all this bait, and I just wanted to hit it with a crankbait, and right off the bat here, got a nice one in the boat. After catching my first keeper, I wanted to keep up my momentum by finding similar points in the same creek I was in. Unfortunately, there were a lot of boats practicing for an upcoming 1,500 boat big bass tournament, so it was really hard to find a point that didn't have a boat on it. Therefore, I started graphing the flattest, most boring looking bank in the entire creek that had no boats around, and I was actually able to find a really nice point that had a lot of fish around it, as well as some hard cover. Unfortunately, based on what I see in my side imaging, I think most of these fish are actually white bass. And I think that's why a lot of anglers weren't even pulling up and fishing this spot. The one thing I have learned though about fishing in Oklahoma and dirtier, shallower lakes, there are oftentimes largemouth that mix in with these white bass. And if you choose your lure properly, you can oftentimes pick off a few largemouth mixed in. Therefore, rather than getting discouraged by seeing all the white bass on my side imaging, I actually wanted to try to throw at the little hard spot I was seeing on the screen to see if I could get some largemouth to bite that were mixed in with those white bass. Usually in this situation, my first go-to lure is something I can drag on the bottom. In this case, I found that I could get a few bites on a big worm. I actually caught a few keepers on the big worm that were not that big, but at least gave me confidence in the area before hooking into a good one. Got him. Feels like a good one finally. Stay on there, fish. Oh yeah, finally. Freaking good one on the Ozark rig. Come here. Oh, there we go. So I'm talking about Ozark rig, big worm in the throat, guys. I actually switched over and tried throwing a bunch of random baits at them. Could not get these fish to react, the bigger fish at least, to a crankbait. I kept on catching white bass on the crankbait. On a few other things I was throwing, I just kept on getting little ones, but had to drag that big worm down there to get a better quality fish in the boat. Here we go, guys. 3 pounds, 5 ounces, 3-pounder. That's what we're looking for, almost 3.5. Beautiful fish on that Ozark rig. Beautiful fish. Let's get back down the lake. There we go, guys. Ozark rig with the 10-inch worm. Just threading that thing on. This worm looks crazy under the water, guys, when you put it on this Ozark rig. I'll show you a little video underwater of what it looks like. It literally has this vibrating fall to it, and it looks so good. I absolutely love it. So excited to get some bites on it out here. I haven't really been able to fish a big worm with the Ozark rig that much. I just saw it in the pool, how cool it looked, and when it vibrated. And I'm thinking in this dirtier water, that will really attract a lot of these fish to come to the bait. Normally when I'm fishing a big worm, I like to drag the worm to the side, which I'm going to test out as well. But with this worm, I kind of want to try to just raise it up and let it fall, let that motion of the weight bring those fish in. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Finally got a bait the big ones will eat. Had to go big bait for bigger fish. Oh, he choked that thing. Big 8-inch depth Sakamata shad on the 7/0 1/4-ounce TUSH. Core tackle coming in clutch today, guys. That 7/0 TUSH down the throat, big old 8-inch shad, and he choked that first cast on that deal. 3 pounds, 6 ounces, almost a clone of that last one I caught on the Ozark rig. Golly, freaking tank, dude. Nice fish. Oh, there we go, beautiful fish right there. Golly, he absolutely inhaled that bait. That brings our total to 13 pounds, 1 ounce. We have a couple of 1-pounders in there too. There's that 8-inch depth Sakamata shad just destroyed. There's that 7/0 1/4-ounce TUSH core tackle. I need to get another one rigged up and get out there again. Let's freaking go, guys. Got that fish on the big old bait. This is an 8-inch depth Sakamata shad, the heavyweight version, on a 7/0 1/4-ounce TUSH. There we go. Get that thing rigged up right there. And all I did, guys, was literally bomb that thing as far as I could up onto this deal. And I'm working it by letting that bait sink for about 3 seconds. And I'm just burning my reel handle, letting it fall for a second. Burning my reel handle, letting it fall. Basically like you would fish a hair jig, but just way shallower. I'm only fishing up there in like 5 foot of water, and these fish are just up there. And man, 2 hit it the last cast. Need to kind of get my bearings again. I don't really know where I'm casting. I'm just freaked out, dude, because that was such a cool bite. He sharked that thing right on the surface. That was crazy. Got him, big one. There we go. Oh, there we go. Freaking big on the depth Sakamata 7/0 TUSH. You guys got to get some of these. Go to Tackle Warehouse, buy a core tackle 7/0 1/4-ounce TUSH with that depth 8-inch Sakamata shad. Just go do it, because it catches bigs. It's the only deal I can get in to eat right now, and it is an absolute stud catcher. That TUSH, guys, such a good rig right there. I mean, there we go, guys. 4 pounds, 13 ounces. That's the way to get that Catch 15 challenge finished with a bang. But I'm not done, guys. I mean, I'm not going to stop fishing after catching fish like this. That's 16 pounds, 3 ounces. Catch 15 completed. Currently sitting at 10:54. Been only out here for like 2.5 hours. And there we go, guys. Graphed them up. Beauties. Absolute stud. Let's get him back down in there. Man, what a stud, guys. And one quick tip on this tush with the depth Sakamata shad or tush with the spunk shad, whichever way you want to fish it, don't look at the live scope. I'm not looking at the live scope when I'm fishing this thing. I find it screws me up when I'm trying to like get the fish to follow it or try to make them bite it or whatever. I just find it's better to spot lock. I'm literally spot locked on this spot, casting at a waypoint, and all I'm going to do with my retrieve is just let it sink for 2 to 3 seconds if I'm fishing real shallow like this, maybe up to 5 to 7 seconds if I'm fishing deeper with that like 4/0 3/8 ounce tush and the spunk shad. But basically, let that thing sink for like 3 seconds, then just hop your rod tip really aggressive 3 times. Let that thing fall, and the more erratic you can keep it, the better. And just ignore the scope. Don't look at the scope. It's not gonna help you out with these fish. For whatever reason, I just find I do not get bit when I stare at that scope and try to watch them on it. Find a school of fish with side imaging like I did, and just work that bait around those fish. You're gonna get a lot more bites doing it that way. Got him. What do I got? Feels like a good one if it's a bass. Oh yeah, it's a good one. Stay on their fish. On the old 8.0 Squarebill. Just one hook. Get in here. Yes. Here we go. Came back to this spot, guys. Let it rest for a little bit. I actually lost a couple fish just kind of messing around with a different bait, but got that fish on the 8.0 Squarebill, and I want to make a few casts with some different baits here, tied on a few different things. There's a solid fish right there, another solid like 3-pounder, which should cull out that 115 that we had. Yep, 3 pounds, 1 ounce, nice fish right there. Culls out that 115, beauty right there. Come back down the lake. That gives us a total of 17 pounds, 5 ounces. That was that first cast with that big Magnum Squarebill. I love throwing an 8.0 Squarebill at times, guys, especially when you're going after those better quality fish. The point up here isn't all that deep. As I mentioned earlier, it's only maybe 8 foot deep. And you can just kind of grind that crankbait up there. And the thing about this bait is that it does get really good quality bites. And usually you don't get too many white bass on it, though I have caught quite a few white bass on it in the past out here on Grand, but you get fewer than you would with like a 6XD. And it's just kind of interesting because I rotate baits every so often here, and I'll get 1 or 2 good bites, and then I can't get bit on that bait again. Ooh, I just slammed it right there. I won't be able to get bit on that bait again. So these fish are kind of being picky. So you gotta have a lot of rods, as you can see on the front deck here. I got all kinds of rods. I was trying all kinds of stuff. In hindsight, I don't think this area had that many big largemouth on it to begin with. I just was able to get the few that were there to bite based on my lure selection. I actually finished up my challenge pretty early and decided to head home for the day, but if I was going to try to find more fish on this trip, I probably would try to locate some isolated brush piles or areas where I could get just 1 to 2 really big bites. A lot of times in this early June, late May time period, a lot of bigger largemouth will set up in brush piles, but that's a very tricky game. You'll have to run 15, 20, 30 brush piles and maybe get 1 or 2 bites. I have caught some really nice bass out of brush piles in this exact same area of the lake, so that probably would have been my follow-up strategy if I wanted to continue catching bigger fish. But I was content with my 17 pounds, I completed my Catch 15 challenge, and I may come out and do another video on Grand soon, or actually target brush piles specifically to see if I could get 2 or 3 really big bites and maybe complete my Catch 15 challenge in just 3 fish. Hopefully you guys learned something from this video about how to decipher the key areas on your lake when your screen is completely covered up in debris, bait fish, and non-bass species. It's a skill that's very valuable because when you find yourself in these situations, it can be overwhelming and make you feel discouraged about fishing offshore entirely. If you guys did enjoy the video, make sure you leave a like down below. Also subscribe to the Fish Moment YouTube channel for more videos like this. Thanks for checking out this video, we'll see you all in the next one.